The thing that I've found that has been the best for me and also the hardest to do is learning that it is far better to do less and do it well than to do too many things. And the reason it's so hard is because particularly, as lawyers, we oftentimes, or legal professionals, we're often pulled in so many directions. Yes, I can do that. Yes, I can do that. Oh, it'll be easier for me to do that than ask somebody else to do it. And soon enough, there's accumulation of things that you've said yes to. And all of them might be things that one likes to do in certain respects. But the cumulative weight of them mean that one becomes unhappy because there's just too much. And the results of the projects just aren't the same. For years, I worried about being present for the family in the morning, and I did not exercise in the morning. What I found is I'm much better getting up super early, getting some exercise in, and then being around for a little bit to be around the family, rather than not doing that and being a jerk in the morning. But it took me a long time to kind of settle in to figure out what worked for me. It's figuring out what works for you so that you can do your best focus. So because it has come up in the comments and because people ask, I will go ahead and say what I do most mornings. And again, perfect being the enemy of good. I don't do everything every morning. I do the best I can given the circumstances. And for a while, I was so regimented about my routines that when I couldn't get my routine done perfectly, I felt like I was less than, or I hadn't done my day right. What I've learned is it is far better to be adjustable, meaning you don't want to be the jerk who gets up at 4:30 in the morning on your family vacation and wakes everyone else up in the hotel room. That is not a recipe to happiness for anyone. But if getting up early on a family vacation is something that's important to you in terms of feeling fulfilled, figuring out a way to do that and get out of the room and take care of yourself so that you can be a good family member, that is important. So generally, my routine, if I've got my kind of ideal circumstances, I like to be getting ready and into bed around 8:30 at night. I like to be up at roughly 4:30, 4:45 in the morning. That gives me enough time to get through the things that I want to do to kind of cleanse myself and be ready and move into the day. Too much information, but I'll share it anyway. I trend towards high cholesterol, and so I do psyllium husk fiber. Part of the reason for getting up so early in the morning is there's so much liquid that goes with that I want to be able to be up early, get that liquid through my system so that if I'm going out for a bike ride or some other thing, I'm not dealing with liquid while I'm out and about. Then I will do some form of exercise. It'll be weights typically every other day. It'll be riding a bike. It'll be going for a walk. I've got the joy of being in a wonderful place where walking's great, or doing some yoga. Just something to get the body moving. And again, what I've learned is it doesn't need to be a major thing. Just going out and walking for 15 to 25 minutes outside is enough to kind of settle me in a way where it works really well for me. After I've gone through that, I get home, get to see the kids for a little bit, have a cup of coffee, do a big bowl of breakfast beans. That's my magic recipe for also dealing with some of the cholesterol piece, and making sure that I get fiber and protein in my diet. And then I go into the day. If I have some extra time, I might do some journaling, but I'm not going to be super stressed about it. The reason I bring this up is as you listen to a lot of the people who talk about their morning routines and their perfect setup, and these are the Cal Newports, the Arthur Brooks, the Andrew Huberman, various people talk about how they do all these things to then set themselves up for a perfect 4 hours of deep work. And again, for years, I felt like that was the thing that I needed to do, and things were always getting in the way, phone calls or unexpected texts or depositions that I couldn't control the time for, or had a harder time controlling the time for. And my ultimate takeaway is, while we lawyers are deep thinkers, we are not academics. And what works well for an academic who is doing deep research and writing papers is not necessarily the same thing that works for us as professionals who are trying to work through issues. So I do think that having uninterrupted time is really important for us to be able to perform at our best. So by uninterrupted time, I mean being able to, if you're writing an opposition to summary judgment or an article for a magazine, having that time to be able to just dig into it and focus is great. At the same time, one of my favorite pieces that I came across on how to approach work periods was to get rid of those designated work blocks entirely and just do what is most concerning to me in the moment. Meaning whatever pops to the top of my head, I deal with that. And then when that's done, I deal with the next thing. Because I'm going to have to get through all the same things, whether I'm doing them in time blocks or not. And this way, I'm not thinking about one thing trying to work on something else. Now, I will say when I've taken that approach, it's almost fugue state in terms of productivity. It's, I forgot to make that calendar entry, or I forgot to text somebody about having lunch. That's the thing that's top of mind. It's dealt with. Then I work on something else. Then I work on something else. And then the mind settles down and actually drops into that big work project, and the things aren't floating around. So at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter what approach you use. And I think this is Oliver Burkeman's The 4,000 Weeks, Time Management for Mortals. Really is no ability for us to do all the things all the time, despite the illusion that that's the case. So once one lets go of that and acknowledges, I'm just going to do the best I can with the things available to me, one's life becomes easier, one becomes a lot happier. The thing that I've found that has been the best for me and also the hardest to do is learning that it is far better to do less and do it well than to do too many things. And the reason it's so hard is because, particularly, as lawyers, we oftentimes, or legal professionals, we're often pulled in so many directions. Yes, I can do that. Yes, I can do that. Oh, it'll be easier for me to do that than ask somebody else to do it. And soon enough, you find yourself this accumulation of things that you've said yes to. And all of them might be things that one likes to do in certain respects. But the cumulative weight of them mean that one becomes unhappy because there's just too much. And the results of the projects just aren't the same. An example, when I am at my best and in the moment, I do some of my best podcast work. When I am worried about a long list of things that I've left undone because I've got too much on my plate, I'm thinking about an article I need to write, a case I need to be working on, something I need to do related to my kids, rather than recording what I'm doing right here. And so if one can start figuring out what one truly can knock down and say no to, and this is, the synthesis here is Essentialism by Greg McKeown. It's the idea that paring things down ultimately gets a better result and makes you happier. Right now I've been trying to evaluate, I've got a lot of stuff in bike life, I've got podcast, I've got strategy and casework, I've got fatherhood, I've got articles. Are there things that I can start cutting down on to make it so that I am more targeted, more focused, and feel less spread thin? And as a result, I'm just much happier in terms of how I approach things. So a way to do this is to sit down and make a list of the big things that one does in life, and then order them in terms of what one's priorities are. The things that bring you joy, and the things that bring you purpose, and the things that bring you revenue in certain respects, because one generally has to have some form of income in order to do the things. So by way of example, for me, I've gone through and I've listed time and again the things that I do, tried to figure out what are some of the things that I can have others come into my life and help out on, where it may be something that is more fulfilling to them than it is to me. So as I've worked as a lawyer for a long time, there are things that I brought people in as associate attorneys, as partners, as paralegals, other team members, where I don't know that dealing with some of the elements of cases bring me the same joy that it did when I was younger. And in working with really talented people, one of the things that makes me very happy is teaching. So teaching and mentoring and helping people learn how to be at their best, I can then hand off tasks that I used to otherwise do myself. So I've been able to clear my plate of some of the things that, as I've gotten further in practice, bring me more stress, bring me less joy. And then in doing that, clearing my plate some, it allows me to really focus on the areas where I excel. So an example of something like this, when we are working with our clients to prepare them for deposition or prepare them for mediation, that's a moment that in certain respects I really enjoy because of the connection with the client. And in other respects, it's something that's oftentimes somewhat repetitive. You're going through the same elements, adjusting case by case, but going through the same elements. And it's a wonderful area for one of our younger attorneys to learn. So if they watch me do them, I have bullet points. I demonstrate areas where, one makes sure that one listens and where one is showing empathy. And then I watch them do some, and then I see that they've learned how to do it. And that's one less thing, now that I have a talented staff member, it's one less thing that I'm doing myself and gives me time to work on larger or bigger projects. As we are in a world that has become increasingly left-brain focused, it's important to make sure that we turn on the right side of the brain at certain points. And so what does that mean? It means, and it's an area that I will harp on probably more in this episode, it's putting down the phone, and it's not responding to texts and to emails and to the constant ping of information and response, but to go into deep meaning areas. It's having a conversation with a friend on a walk about life, the universe, and everything. It's taking on something that exercises that right brain, like learning to play an instrument, learning a language, working with clay, painting. You don't need to be good at it. Strivers, let me repeat that. You don't need to be good at it. So this is not an area where you want to pick up the guitar and in 6 months be performing Spanish classical music in front of an audience of 400. You want to have something where you're just using the opportunity to let go of that left brain, let go of that linear thinking, and really just be in the moment. So if you embrace that, then it can help in terms of, again, raising that happiness, raising that connectedness, raising that feeling like you have meaning and joy. With that, I think I want to say thanks for tuning in. Thanks for joining me on this outing and this adventure. I hope that some of this resonates with you, and I hope that some of it is something that you can use, even just one or two things that you might say, I'm going to try this out and see if this works for me, and see if it helps with that striver mindset in terms of just having a little bit more happiness, less sadness, more focus, more presence, more joy, more engagement in life. So thanks for listening. If you have any comments, questions, feedback on this, I invite it. This is an area that it's a lot of meaning to me, and it's why I've taken the time to try and do this and do it well. So email us at podcast@coopers.law with comments. For all of you doing justice out there, happy hunting.